Hi Capricorn, welcome to your January 2020 Astro Update. It's Raina here. I was just thinking when I was compiling this list that we are entering a new decade. I read that online, somebody had mentioned that, and I totally forgot about that. And that's another fun thing about this new year is that it's also launching a new decade. And boy, what a great way for Capricorn to come into a new decade. You are coming off of a solar eclipse in your sign at the end of December. And it's like, I think it's so much forward momentum. You have Jupiter in your sign. And so as the month begins, the sun is in your sign. And Mars goes into Sagittarius on the 3rd, so right at the beginning. And, Sagittarius is a fire sign, and so Mars does very well with fire because Mars rules a fire sign in Aries. So that's pretty compatible in general. But for you, Capricorn, Mars in Sag is going to be in your 12th house. So you may feel like you want to do certain things, but that it's not always going to be as straightforward as you would like, because the 12th house is a house of passivity. It's like the house of the monk. So is the monk burning with ambition? And luckily you have the momentum of that solar eclipse that, has just recently occurred. And you have the sun in your sign, obviously. You have Jupiter in your sign, and even some of these other planets like your ruler Saturn and Pluto. These can give you a sense of the word that comes to mind is gravitas, where you are really about, a particular mission. The South Node is even in your sign as well. So there's definitely a lot going on with Capricorns, but for this brief time of Mars being in your 12th house, you may find that you're better off when you're doing physical activity to do something related to Tai Chi or Hatha Yoga, because it combines the physicality of Mars with the spiritual influence of the 12th house. On the 10th of the month, we have a lunar eclipse in your opposite sign of Cancer. So here we are again. In 2020, we're going to continue to have eclipses in your opposite sign Cancer as well as your sign. And so these are going to affect the 1st and 7th houses. Now, obviously, this is a general reading. Even within your own sign, you're going to have differences of house placement depending on the degree of sun or rising sign. I should have said this is for the rising sign as well, this reading. But in any case, we're also going to have a new pair of eclipses, Gemini and Sagittarius, and those are going to begin in the summertime. And yet, the Cancer Capricorn eclipses are not going to be finished in 2020. In 2019. In 2020, they're going to still continue. And that means that your life is going to be directly impacted. Now, you may be a Capricorn who has been experiencing these eclipses in 2019 and say, I haven't had any real changes in my life. And, I can't guarantee that that's going to play out for all of you. But if you have had changes in 2019, just understand that 2020 may be more of the same. So this lunar eclipse at 20 degrees of Cancer on the 10th of January will occur in your marriage sector or partnership sector. And this can bring an awareness to a committed partnership. And it may be in the form of understanding the needs of your partner better. It can be that a relationship that you have tried to make work has run its course. But, if it is something like an ending, it will be an ending that is like it was meant to be. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these eclipses, because we're dealing with the North and the South node transits, and they're connected to the eclipses, they're really speaking about your destiny. And sometimes people fight their destiny because they want things their own way. But later on, when they reflect back on it, they say, oh, yeah, that was for the best. I mean, I can think about in my own life. And I would have sworn up and down for years afterwards that it was the worst thing ever. And then, now I look back and I say, thank God. Because my vision was too small at the time to see the bigger picture. And so, when people are experiencing eclipses in their sign and their opposite sign, the best advice I can give them is to go with the flow, because the eclipses bring things in and take things away that you have no control over. And they're meant to shake up your life. And you may say, well, I'm, really good at making change. Why do I have to experience this? Because, it's a big old world and we're all part of it. And so it's not just about you. There are other players in this game called life, and all of them are, connected to your life, and changes can affect them as well. And so for this eclipse, either you're appreciating the needs of your partner more, maybe finding out that this person has certain needs. Maybe they're finally opening up with you, or you're able to release the relationship and it's not as bad. That's really how I should have put it, that I think it can enable the individual to release the relationship without clinging to the results. On the same day, on the 10th, Uranus goes direct at 2 degrees of Taurus. So, boy, that's pretty interesting. So on the same day that you have a lunar eclipse in your 7th house, you also have let me make sure that, because I've written down the transits, but not which house they're in. I'm just doing it in my mind. Yeah, that must be your 5th house of romance, Capricorn. Things that make you go, So, is it possible that there are some Capricorns out there who have taken a liking to somebody? And maybe it's like literally an Aquarius. When Uranus is in your 5th house, you can expect a lot of surprises. And if you do meet someone, you might meet someone where it's kind of like love at first sight. Uranus has this reputation of being very erratic and given to surprising people. And in the 5th house, I think it's actually a very good place for Uranus, because it can spark love coming from anywhere and just kind of hitting somebody, and just things of that nature. And like I said, it could even be, and this transit's going to be around for probably about another 7 years or so. So you have the opportunity to meet and possibly fall in love with, this is a love house, with people who are more of a free spirit. So for some Capricorns, you actually have this within yourself because you may have inner planets in Aquarius. Being that Aquarius is right next to your, is adjacent to your sun sign or your rising sign. But in any case, this can indicate that you become attracted to this type of person. Perhaps in the past, you were more attracted to an old-fashioned type of a partner. But you may be undergoing radical shifts yourself. And this is due to having Pluto in your sign for so long, perhaps. It can also mean for certain Capricorns, especially if you have experienced divorce at some point during this, especially like I would say, well, I shouldn't say just in the last year, but that might have really hastened the demise of some committed partnerships because it was just one more stressor. The eclipse is, bringing about those changes, but before that, I mean, you still have Saturn there in the 7th house. You still have Pluto and the South Node, and these are all influences that are pretty challenging. Okay, so you add the eclipse energy, and then that can explain why some of you have maybe broken up with a partner and then decided that you're going to kind of play the field or just have a very detached approach, because Uranus can be like just kind of enjoying your freedom, but still maybe having romantic dalliances. On the 13th, Venus goes into Pisces. So until the 13th, almost halfway through the month, you have Venus in Aquarius. Aquarius is your second house of earned income. Venus rules the second house. So Venus being the attractor in its own house, that could be good for money. And now Mercury has gone into that. I'm sorry. Now Venus has gone into Pisces, and it's going into your 3rd house, which is the house of communication. It's also the house of media. It's a house of communication and writing and things like that. So you can maybe profit from these endeavors. It can also be a situation of finding love in your local environment. Again, with Uranus in the 5th house, you may have random or seemingly random encounters, when you least expect it, out of left field. And so you go to the grocery store and you meet somebody or something like that, somewhere locally. And 3rd house can be your siblings, so you can make nice with your siblings or make nice with your neighbors. That's the 3rd house as well, if you've been having any kind of conflict with them. On the 16th, Mercury goes into Aquarius, into that 2nd house, the money house. You may be crunching numbers. It's January. You might be setting the tone for your budget for 2020. Capricorn, the 2nd house is an earth house, being the house that Taurus rules in the universal chart. So it has a very practical bent to it. And your mind is in that groove. On the 20th, the Sun joins Mercury there. And that's, positive vibes in this money house. But also kind of like you're embodying that since it's your sun sign. And so this may become a central focus for you at this time, is your the money that you're making. Maybe there's a creative element that you're, coming up, with Mercury. There could be brainstorming. How can I create more income streams, for instance? And then on the 24th, we have a new moon at 4 degrees of Aquarius. So the new moon in that second house. And that can be, maybe shortly thereafter, you take action that is connected with creating new income streams, creating a new budget for yourself, or anything that you can think of, like for instance, researching, that could be Mercury too, researching passive income ideas. Some people have multiple income streams, they're not putting all their eggs into one basket. And so that may be something that you decide to do. But yeah, so the energy becomes quite practical as the month comes to an end, Capricorn. So I hope that you enjoy this. And if you would like to look at 2020 and also have your chart interpreted, your natal chart, if you've never had it done before, or even if you have, no two astrologers will likely do anything similar. They will tend to focus on different things. I happen to know this, having interpreted people's charts online with other astrologers, and seeing how people just focus on certain areas because of their own, consciousness. And so I'm going to put a link to that particular reading below. Have a great beginning to a new decade and a new month. Take care. Bye.